Are you prepared? Before I came to university, I was told that preparation could be the difference between an average and brilliant university experience. So I prepared by speaking to those who'd been there and done it. And what they told me was fascinating. I heard second-year students describe how wonderful the first year was. Then I heard third-year students complain that they were skint and couldn't wait to get out of the place and earn some money. And then there were the graduates who were working, especially those after a few years. What they kept saying was that they're tired of work. They miss university. It was the best few years of their life. The common theme was that there is ongoing change. But armed with this knowledge, I made sure I was prepared and had a brilliant few years here. I'm here to help you to be prepared and to even accelerate your personal development by avoiding some mistakes which tend to be repetitive. You'll learn that life is as easy or as hard as you make it, that there are three types of people. You'll be empowered to know that you can bypass this workplace conveyor belt and create your own powerful personal brand, which is both rewarding to you and to those that pay you. And finally, you'll hear about my alternative methodology of helping others, how it's based on Buddhist values. And this might even inspire you, as it did me, to consider financial planning as a potential career. I read medical biochemistry at university and wanted to be a scientist. But in case you didn't realize, I come from an Asian background. Guess what my relatives wanted me to become? A doctor. It got to the point that whenever I went for Asian functions, aunts used to come and ask me which hospital I worked in. An aunt in Asian terms is any lady over the age of 35. So I was brought up to think like a scientist or a doctor. And imagine how disappointing it was upon graduating and then realizing I couldn't make a career out of science. It was very worrying and confusing. But then I met this wise man who asked me what my purpose was. At 21, I didn't think I had one. I had not thought of life or my role in it in this way before. But he persisted and made an offer which was life-changing. He said, if I can show you a way or a job where you can help and influence a person, family, or business to be the best they can be, because they channel every decision through you, because you are their trusted advisor, would you take that job? I said, of course I would. I mean, who wouldn't? Imagine my disappointment when I found out he was a financial advisor. I mean, I hated money. I did not see what that job had to do with helping people like scientists, teachers, or doctors. Can a financial advisor help people? I think they can, because the job deals with constant ongoing change. And how best to showcase this to you than through a real-life case study? Let me share with you Mike and Eileen's story. Imagine your parents. They might have had a similar experience in the past, or this could be you in a few years' time. Following a business sale, they wanted advice on what to do with £400,000. We had an in-depth discussion about what was important to them about money and why. Eileen wanted financial security, but Mike, he wanted some of the finer things in life. The first observation was that they didn't really have that much. What appeared rosy wasn't the case. So the first lesson was to convince them that if they carry on doing what they have been doing, they are going to get the same results, or have not much in a few years' time. This was done by showing them their financial future. Imagine if you could see your financial future. How would you change? Seeing is believing, and for them, this is what it looked like. Blue is good, red is bad. We call this your lifetime cash flow model, a glimpse into your future. Being a model, we can get it to do anything on the catwalk, otherwise known as a PC. What if you spend less, save more, need more, can't work, receive an inheritance. Anything can be built into this model, and the final picture will give you fright because there's a lot of red, or peace of mind because there's blue. And it's the job of the financial planner to restructure the finances so that there is blue, giving the person confidence, financial freedom to go and do what they want. And in their particular case, this detailed analysis shows that if they carried on living the life they want, to maintain their standard of living, they had to dip into their savings in 12 years' time. Out goes university funding for their children. And if they really want to live the life they want, they run out of money at the age of 72. It falls off the cliff. They were shocked to see this. Mike's question was, what must I do to make this all blue? And this was the start of their financial plan. We worked together to create a plan which enabled him to start a new business. That did exceptionally well. And a few years down the line, when money was no issue, we discovered that despite everything appearing to be rosy, it wasn't. That as a family unit, they weren't happy. The reason was because Mike was too busy working in the business. At that point, he protested and said to Eileen, "I'm doing all of this for you and the children." We tend to forget children, don't we? When we spoke to the children, Mike realized that his family needed him more than his money. Realizing something had to change, we altered the plan and made the business more efficient whilst giving him back 1 day every week. The resulting lessening of stresses, combined with increased efficiency, gave further profits for the business. But most importantly, and what gives me the greatest satisfaction, is it improved their marriage. Did you like that example? There are 3 lessons I want you to take from this. Firstly, that any decision or choice we have, we must see it in its broader context. That is, what is the bigger picture? In their case, they wanted advice on a lump sum of money. For what? Most jobs out there are transactional, one-off. I remember going into a bakery once and asking for a pastry, and I got one. But can you imagine if that was a service industry, what sort of a conversation we would have had? I'd have gone in and said, "Morning, Danish pastry, please." Said, yes, sir, but before we do that, I need to make a quick health assessment and find out your calorie intake. Sorry, I'm in a bakery, right? Yes, but I'm providing you with a service. I mean, looking at you, you could do with a salad as opposed to a pastry. Beg your pardon? But you don't even do salads. Could you just give me what I asked for? But sir, wait. I see the bigger picture. Bit of a crazy conversation, isn't it? But that's how most employers work. They don't work like that. They would expect their staff to ignore the bigger picture and sell what they had. Worse still, they could lie and sell what appeared to be a salad, disguised as a good old muffin. The way I see it is this. You go and work for somebody else and earn for them based on their needs. You become a pawn in a system. Life becomes a conveyor belt whereby you get up, go to work, do a series of tasks, come home, have an argument, or something fun, and then go to sleep. This process repeats itself until the day you stop work, look back, and wonder what it could have been like. Do you want to be a pawn in a system, or create a system that works for you and those that matter to you? Do you want to be the one dictating the course of the game, or the one being dictating the course of the game, or being dictated to? This brings me on to the second lesson, that there are 3 types of people. Most people I meet, they'll reach a point in life, they'll look back and they'll say, you know, I've had an average life, it's been up and down. In general, what's happened is, I've had an average life. What they mean is, they've had a flat line. And I'm going to explain this graphically, because the most successful people I know, they're not only good with money, they do well with their money. They hire in experts to make their money work harder for them. And this flat line can be shown graphically like this. If we see the x-axis, We call this our timeline, and on the y-axis, it represents wealth. The average person will say, my life has been average, and their name is Joe. Average Joe. But there are some people who might make mistakes, repetitive mistakes. They seem programmed to fail. Their lives might end early. They're vulnerable. But there's this small minority who seem to get better and better. They have alpha about them, and I call them the progressive alphies. Whilst working with these three people for many years, I now know that my purpose is to help everyone to become a progressive alphie. How is the third lesson. Because if we look at the graph again, we'll call this our life events. Leading up to the date, we rest in peace. You'll buy a house, might buy a nice car, have a family and go on holidays. But to do all of this, you need a job or a business that gives money, which is supposed to be a sign of success, which is represented on this y-axis. But what is the most important thing about this y-axis? It is the why itself. That is, why do we want what we wish we want? What is the purpose of all of this? Whenever we want something, we must go back to our why. So let's get back to you and what you do once you leave here. Because there will be debts to repay, deposits to accumulate, families to raise, houses to buy, etc. And if you work in the UK, from day one, you will have to plan for your retirement. How thrilling! It's compulsory. Nobody said life is going to be easy. As a nation, we're in serious financial trouble. So let me explain why you need to be aware of the issues and to proactively plan to be like Alfie. Take back a few generations. Most people had a job for life. They lived within their means, frowned upon loans. The most exotic holiday for them was not far off Blackpool. They saved and bought a house, and the day they stopped work, they were given an income for life based on their final salary. Now, sadly, once retired, they weren't able to live for very long. But they were able to pass this inheritance to their children, who built another estate and careers. But the difference for them is, when they retired, they lived for many years, thanks to the advancement of medical science. At that point, the pension companies said, this is costing us too much money. So they stopped those schemes for newer members. That leaves the next generation and us. Gone are the days when there are fixed jobs for life with a guaranteed pension at the end of it. Multiple job changes, financial pressures, coupled with easy access to loans, mean people do not live within their means. People live for today and not for tomorrow. They struggle to pay bills, let alone save. Whatever little they have is not guaranteed when they retire. Instead, it's linked to the up and down movements of the stock market. This lack of certainty scares them. Life is not a rehearsal. Is there another way? I think so. This is where Buddhist values and mindfulness come in. See, we are where we are. The future we want is an outcome. In between the two, a series of activities or actions need to take place in order to get there. So if we need to take action to reach a destination, what makes us take action? It is our decisions. But what makes us take a decision? It is our thoughts. This implies that if we are able to control these thoughts, our thoughts, we must be able to control our destiny. Yes, that's right. We become what we think. And this is my core message to you today. Because our thoughts have the ability to interact with these actions, leading to different outcomes. Thoughts such as, what's in it for me? If I do this, I get so much more. Unless I do that, I miss out on my target. This kind of thinking is selfish. It is toxic and flawed at a fundamental level. But there is another way. What if you were able to sense what can go wrong before it actually goes wrong. That is being mindful or aware of the moment. Because whenever we undertake an activity on behalf of another, we must be aware of the origin of this thought itself. The right thought leads to the right action and outcome. Mindfulness clarifies your thinking, making right thought achievable. The Buddha was asked to explain in simple language what this end goal is. And his teaching is non-sectarian. It is universal because it applies to all our minds. He said, abstain from all sinful and unwholesome actions. Perform wholesome and pious actions and continue purifying the mind. It is a pure mind that allows us to see things the way they are. It allows us to sense the arising of this thought and class it as good or bad. We then see its progression leading on to action and potential outcomes. But most importantly, a pure mind allows us to gain the wisdom to understand that everything is impermanent, that change is constant and ongoing. It then all comes back to our purpose. A life of purpose reveals the purpose of life. I hope I've given you a glimpse of how a core Buddhist principle can be used to help others as well as ourselves. Your journey is just about to begin. Be mindful that most jobs out there are designed to hone us into fulfilling others' dreams, which might not be in line with our core values. If that is the case, be brave and never fear going it alone. In the case study, you saw how the couple's need was transactional, but the bigger picture, arrived by the right thinking, could be beautiful. Once they saw it, they realized that there was much more to money than just, there's much more to success than just money. Mike became a progressive Alfie. He realized that there was a purpose and why, which was his family. And by making a few changes to make others happy, he created everlasting change. And I hope that story will plant a seed within you, that financial planning can be a successful and rewarding career. And on that note, I'll leave you with this. Life is not a rehearsal. Be prepared and invest in building your dream. Otherwise, you'll end up working for someone else, building theirs. Thank you.